You're listening to the Slaying Self-Doubt podcast with Coach Felicia, where we empower Black women to overcome their doubts, fears, and insecurities in order to give birth to their God-given purpose. Join me and sometimes some of my friends on our journey as we remind you that you are not alone. I'm Felicia Wallace, and together we will find our fears and slay them. Welcome back to another episode of the Slaying Self-Doubt podcast. I am here with Kai Petty, the founder and creative director for Fifth in Welshire. Welcome, Kai.
Hey,
How are you? How are you?
I'm well. I'm so excited to be here. I can't wait to share my story with your listeners, and I hope that it resonates well.
Yes. I'm excited. So usually I tell people like how we met and how and like how we got here, right? And so you were telling me that you actually was listening to me, y'all. This time I wasn't stalking somebody else, because normally I'll be stalking people and I'll be like, oh, let me see, okay, all right, and the Lord be like, that one. So this time the Lord put it on your heart to come to me, so yay
Yay.
me. This is one of those things about when you do your work, right? Like the people who are supposed to find you will, and that is the way the Lord works. So I'm grateful that you are a listener of the podcast and that you wanted to share your journey on here, so that someone can resonate with you. I told you earlier when I didn't realize you were from the DMV area, from Prince George's County. Remember, y'all, it's a difference. Because I was like, Fifth and Wilshire sounds very like New York, somewhere up there. Like I just knew. So before we get started, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started?
Sure. So I am, as well as you will soon know, that I am a fashion designer. By God, I'm gonna say that
Yes.
it's something that I was kind of born into. My
Mm.
mom was a seamstress. My grandfather was a tailor
Oh,
for
wow.
military. So I've been around it. Like my mom was making my clothes when it wasn't cool to have your clothes made, and so like it's just been it's been in me and around me my entire life. So what I wanted to do was I always knew that it was going to be fashion, but I wasn't sure exactly how. I wasn't sure if I wanted to go to design school or just kind of learn from the trade, like
Mm-hmm.
following my mom and stuff like that. And so kind of I did a little bit of both. And so I did attend Fashion Institute of Technology. I took some continuing education courses because I did learn a lot from my mom and understanding. But, home sewing is a little different than actually,
Yeah.
getting into the business of
Right.
manufacturing
Right.
clothes,
Right. Right. Right.
And so a little bit about me, I actually am a mom, a wife. I am a mom of two. I have a 17-year-old son, soon to be senior.
Oh.
I have a 10-year-old daughter who's all about cheer life. So I'm a cheer mom on top
Oh.
of that. So if anybody knows that, you know what that struggle is like. um, and I actually have a full-time job. I
What
am
the?
a Yep. I'm a federal government worker, like most people in the DMV.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
um, and so what I tell people is like right now, that's what's paying the bills. But the goal is to transition into Fifth and Welshire full time.
Yes. Listen, let's speak that into existence. Y'all hear that? She trying. Okay, Fifth and Wilshire full time. We already that's what we doing. We speaking it into existence right here on the show. So when it happens, you can come back and be like, "Yo,
Absolutely.
well, this is where we at." I love that. So, thank you for sharing that. Like the fact that how is that? Like your mom's a seamstress, your father was a tailor, like, and then you like you said, it was already ingrained in you. Like that's such a great story. Like I know how to like sew some socks together, maybe a button or something like that, but that's about as far as it goes.
No,
So,
I get it.
so like growing up, were you like at what point did you realize this is what I'm supposed to be doing?
So I really think probably like I'll say like to be honest, like in the beginning as when they say what do you want to be when you grow up, like the first my first answer was like a pediatrician,
Mm-hmm.
and then that kind of switched to I want to deliver babies, and then I actually saw a baby being born, and I was like, okay, well never mind, I don't want to do that. But like even with that, like design was always there. I was always sketching stuff like I still have some of my like drawings and sketches from when I was like 10 years old. I've
Yes.
definitely evolved since then, but honestly, it's kind of always been there. Like I didn't have really have a choice. Like my mom, like the whole living room turned into a sewing room all the time. So it was like always
Mm,
either somebody there coming for alterations, getting dresses made or whatever.
yeah.
So it was literally living in it all the time.
Wow, wow, wow. So as you are were doing this and as you are transitioning, how has self-doubt showed up in your journey?
Oh man. Self-doubt has shown up, showed out, and it's still showing up and showing out. Okay. So honestly, like I was very nervous because I didn't finish school. I didn't finish fashion school. I didn't graduate from college like I have. And so I always felt intimidated when going
Mm,
into these meetings and stuff because I felt like, well, am I going to understand the language or are they going to look at me funny because I didn't finish and I didn't go intern for Tommy Hilfiger with Donna Karen like
yeah,
most
you right,
people,
right, right.
you know what I mean? And I always second guess myself from a
Mm,
teenager to present day. Like there's still times like I've had an opportunity, amazing opportunity as a new brand to launch my brand with the CFDA, which is the Council of Fashion Designers of America. And
mm-hmm.
so for those of you that don't know, the CFDA is like the end all be all for fashion
Yeah.
in the States. And so they're like up there with Vogue. And
Oh.
so that I had that opportunity and even going in to the opportunity, like I'll tell you how bad it was. And this was just not even a year ago, right? I met with the director of events at CFDA and she was just like, oh, I love your stuff. She's also from Maryland, by the way. So that helped.
Uh-oh.
And so not gonna lie, that definitely helped. And so she, she was just like, I feel like there should be more Marylanders in the fashion industry because we just don't have there's not a lot of us here.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and she was just like, if you want to get on the calendar, like as in New York Fashion Week bridal market calendar, she's like, let me know. And so in my mind, I did not process what she was saying to me. Like I literally was like, okay, well, let me know when the shows are and I can make sure I can come. And she looked and like she had this strange look on her face. She was like, no, I mean like actually be on the calendar, like yourself, like your brand. And so self-doubt, it's a confidence thing, I think,
Mm-hmm.
major confidence thing. And then feeling guilty for not actually finishing school. But what I've learned though, um, half of the people that are really winning in this industry actually didn't go to fashion school.
Mm-hmm.
And even then, fashion school, talking to my friends that actually did finish fashion school and they did intern for the big names, it didn't, and they only have their own brands. It didn't teach them what they needed to launch a brand.
Mm. So it didn't even prepare them for what?
Didn't prepare
Wow.
them. Mm-mm.
Wow. And so what do you do in those moments that like what are some practical things that you do when you feel that coming up? So like when she offered you to get well first let's find out that when she said no, I want you on the calendar, what did you do with that information?
So at first, like I said, I didn't understand what she was saying. Then when I got it, it was an immediate yes, right? Because it's
Yeah.
one thing that I did learn out of all of this is even say yes regardless. If the
Yeah.
opportunity presents itself, say yes and figure it out later.
Right, right,
And
right,
I and
right.
I literally was in that moment of like, yes, oh, I would love to. And what that made me have to do is like really at like expedite my entire process. Like it cut
Wow.
out like 3 months of what I thought I had
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and boiled it down to 1 month. And so, um, yeah, I mean, that's it. That's pretty much what that did in that moment. But in any self-doubt moment or moment of self-doubt, like I remind myself all the time, and she actually reminded me. She was just like, you have to get over this imposter thing that you don't belong in these rooms because you would never be in a room that you don't belong in.
Mm.
And if you
Mm.
can't,
Say that again.
you'll never be in a room that you don't belong in.
Woo.
And like that really hit me and she just really spoke that in me and I felt it like so much
Mm.
so that I got emotional because I told her I was just like it's just been such a struggle, getting to this point independently, one, being a Black woman, two, being Black period,
Right,
and
right, right,
three,
right.
in this industry, and it's just extremely hard. um and so I literally say that to myself whenever the self-doubt kicks in. I'm like, if I wasn't supposed to be on this call, in this room, in this meeting, at this place, it wouldn't be happening.
Yeah. Yeah. That is that right there. When you said it like that was, I was like, oh, you like that's why I say it again. You will never be in a room you don't belong in because everything happens for a reason, right?
Mhm.
And there are times where, like you say yes. You don't know why you're supposed to be there. It may not be for the actual. I think sometimes we expect it if we're in a situation, we're supposed to get all the things, right? Like, well,
Mhm.
if God put me here, then that means I'm supposed to win. No, sometimes it may be a lesson in patience. It may be a lesson in confidence. It may be a lesson in community or, connection or networking or whatever. You don't know what it is, but there is a purpose for you to be there. And I think just being open to the opportunities allows whatever that is to be able to do that. And shout out to the women in these industries who are pouring into people when they see it. A lot of times there's so many, and I've worked in, like with organizations and like executive who that if somebody is a director or a leader in an organization, like that's a part of leading, that when you see somebody's uncomfortability or you see somebody's insecurity kind of pop up, is to pour into them versus they not ready. You know what I
Absolutely.
mean? Because that makes a world of a difference, because even if you ain't ready, you still need to show up, and you may not be ready in that moment, but that don't mean you're not going to be ready by the time it comes.
Yep.
So that is so on a regular day-to-day basis. So when you're reminding yourself that you are here for a reason, is there anything that you do, like specifically, like regular stuff? Like sometimes I have to dance it out when
Mhm.
I'm like really like worked up. I'd be like, turn on some music.
Mhm.
Usually Murray or Beyonce is my go-to's.
Mhm.
And then I would just like dance it out and just like get that energy up off of me, and then be like, let's go, we got this. Is there any practical things that you do on a regular basis to get yourself out of that headspace? Because you and I both know that if you stay in it too long, it
Mhm.
will delay every single thing that's meant for you.
Yep. Yep. And I'm gonna tell you, it's two things. So I go on a walk if it's weather permitting.
Mm-hmm.
That's my first go-to. I'll go on
Okay.
a walk and I listen to a podcast, or I might put on some gospel music, or I need anything like something
Mm-hmm.
that just gets me in the right mood. And I honestly, I talk out loud on these walks. Like I talk to myself, like, girl, what are you doing? Like, you can do this. Like, it's
Yeah.
really not that serious, and I have the conversation with myself. That's one. And then two is I cry. Like, so I don't, share my emotions a lot, but when it starts to get heavy, I gotta release
Yeah.
it. And so,
Oh.
like, I will cry so that I can lighten up.
Yeah. Yes.
And then
Listen.
and once I cry it out, I'm just like, all right, cry, get yourself together and go. Like I had a manager years ago that it was just a toxic environment, but she
Mm.
was one that really helped me through. And she was like, look, I don't care what you got to do, go outside, cry it out. And once you cry it out, we're gonna get back in here, we're gonna roll our sleeves up and get this work done.
Yeah.
But it's
Yeah.
like that is kind of like what I take on. It's like cry it out, all right, move on.
Yeah. And I
Mhm.
think some of that also, what in the things that you shared, the practical things, the walking and talking out, like, and the crying it out. I think that is our strength too, right? I think a lot of times when, especially for us as Black women, when people's like, we have this unnecessary badge of honor, like, we can carry it, I got this, you don't have to worry about, like, I'm gonna be able to do it. And that isn't the most healthiest way for us to do this.
Mhm.
Sometimes the strongest thing you need to do is to release it.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? So that you aren't carrying it, because then you're not even operating in your full self when you're trying to just carry all of that emotion. You have to understand what works for you. Like you said, walking. Some people is not walking. Some people's taking a drive, right? They need to just clear their mind. Sometimes that's what I would do. I would just get in a car, and um if I do have somewhere to go, like I may be like, oh, I need to go here Friday, but I'm gonna go now, and I just sit in silence. And then I talk to myself, I talk to God, I pray, I have these conversations in my head. Even some I answer myself some, but that is my process to be able to get it out, because otherwise, if I just let it sit, then I'm second guessing everything. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
that just makes things way, way, way worse
Mhm.
unnecessarily. So, what have you learned about yourself during this journey that you didn't know before?
Whew. I've learned most that I'm tougher than I think.
Mm,
Um, and I'm not as tough as I think.
No.
So I'm both, because two things can be true, right?
Right,
And so
exactly.
what I learned is that you have to, I use in terms of like, I'm not as tough as I think. I always thought like, people can tell me stuff and it's cool, like I'm not taking it personal. But in
Mm-hmm.
in this industry, it's so hard. Like you hear so many no's. I mean, so many no's. And to be honest, it's a superficial industry to begin with.
Mm.
And when you hear things like, oh, your stuff is amazing, I love it, this, that, and the third, you're doing really good at this stage in the business, but you don't have enough followers.
Mm.
Like that type of stuff. And in a superficially, it's like, okay, followers don't matter. But in business,
Yeah, yeah.
it does
Mm-hmm.
at this stage, it really does. Because in the business world, followers translates to sellability.
Right, exactly.
And so even though we know that that may or may not be true, but from a business standpoint and a marketing standpoint, it's all about valuation and are you worth the investment and all of that type of stuff. And so that's where I thought I could handle it, but a lot of times I can't.
Yeah.
I had an opportunity with a major retailer early on, and they actually reached out to me because they saw my stuff somewhere. And then when we got to it and we were talking, and then they went back and talked to whoever they needed to talk to, they came back and it was a no. And they didn't specifically say it's because you didn't have followers, but I do have a mentor who used to be a buyer.
Mm.
And she basically told me what it translates to. And so,
Yeah.
um, and I was that, like Felicia, that it set me down for like a whole week. I was so sad.
Mm.
And to the point where I was just like second guessing. I was like, what the heck? Maybe I'm not ready for this.
Mm.
But then once I cried and I got over myself, and I really realized, and even my mentor, she was just like, first of all, that's probably one of the best no's that you can get because it could be no, we're not interested.
Right,
What
right,
they're
right, right.
saying is no, we want to keep an eye on you to see how well you'll do. Because she actually was like, it's a gift, and it was really dodging a bullet. Because had I taken on that opportunity and not been prepared, that would have been a whole nother set of issues
Exactly,
later.
exactly. Yeah. And
Yeah.
sometimes that's so interesting because it's like the blessing can be in the no. And
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't always mean no never. It means no not right now. You know what I
Absolutely.
mean? And then just the same way you said with the like knowing what it is that now you know what you need to do. So then you may be focusing on one thing and it's like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, well, if I know that okay, we say followers don't matter. Well, for my brand and for my business, they actually do. Then I need to be focused on how do I, get more engagement and get more people and things of that sort. You know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
so then it allows you to kind of shift your thinking a little bit. But the fact that you are able to go through those different things and be able to see that's another honesty moment. Like you said, like you can be both at the same time. Like I am strong, but I'm not strong enough for everything. And there
Mm-hmm.
will be things in this life that will break you. Right.
Yep.
And that's okay. It's just about getting back up and what are you gonna do the next time? And then how do you recover from that dang that, okay, I wasn't ready or I don't have enough followers. What is the next thing that I need to do? So as you have been talking about this and even before this I was looking at your stuff and I'm like, oh my goodness, the like literally these designs are beautiful. Like I for me, I'm like, again, I told you I can sew a sock and maybe a button. And so when we talk about Fifth and Wilshire, first of all, I gotta know where the name come from because I told you it sounds prestige, right? Like that is something that you like. Yes, okay.
Yeah. So fifth and Welshire. So the fifth and Welshire, it comes from the number five. Five is my favorite number.
Mm-hmm.
I always tell people like if we were to do like pick a number one through whatever, it's gonna be five. Like
Always.
so so don't even include me in the game because I done told you what it is. But like it's gonna be five. And as I started doing like research about why am I so drawn to number five, and honestly, I was like, this is fate because as I was doing the research, it was like five is usually representative of love and marriage. And so I was like,
Wow.
oh, okay. So fifth. And so instead of saying five in Welshire, because that doesn't really flow, we went with fifth. The Welshire is actually the street that I grew up on. I grew up in Upper Marlboro, Maryland.
Oh.
Um, off in a neighborhood called Windsor Park, and the street is Welshire Drive. And so I liken it to like that's the place where my dreams were born, where I learned
Yeah.
everything that I learned, and it's really just an homage to where I grew up.
Yes, I love that. It's so I'm always interested when you like certain things and like how names kind of come together, especially when they because they have a meaning, right? And like you said, you know exactly what it is and how the correlation of what it is that you're doing and the name of it and the importance of it to you. It is literally like is genuine, right? And versus some people just like, oh, we just picked picked the
Right.
name and kind of went from there.
Yeah.
So let's talk about everything Cab Petty and Fifth and Wilshire. What do you offer? What do you do? Like, let's go. Let's get into all of that.
Yes, let's get into it. So Fifth and Welshire, the brand, we provide contemporary, we like to say occasion wear now, because based on feedback from people, we are, in addition to bridal, we're going to offer some non-bridal focused pieces next year.
Okay.
Yep. And so we cater to the sophisticated or like the fashionable minimalist that is interested in um kind of looking like herself on her day. Like she's not necessarily into the pomp and circumstance of
Yeah.
weddings. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's a space for that. Obviously, there's a space for
Mm-hmm.
that. But I think that there's also a space for the bride that just wants to be herself and look
Yeah.
herself and doesn't want the fuss. So we cater to those women. We also cater to pre and post wedding events. A lot of that comes through like, oh, we're doing this for a bridal shower, whatever. I need something to wear. And what we found is that even coming up with the idea, what I found for planning my own wedding years ago is that we kind of leave those pre and post wedding events like to last minute. You don't
Right.
really think about it. So then it's like you're running out last minute trying to find something that just happens to be white because most brides want to wear white at all of these events.
Right.
And depending on the time of the year, that may or may not be available.
Mm-hmm.
So um, so we cater to that person as well. And like what I like to tell people is like I'm not just selling clothes. I'm selling affordable luxury. I'm selling confidence. I'm selling exclusivity because we don't produce in big batches. And versatility because a lot of these things can actually be worn beyond the big day. And convenience because you're not waiting 6 months to get your dress made or whatever the case may be.
Yes.
Mhm.
So it's each it are these custom made dresses. So like
Mhm.
say I wanted something for us, I don't know, like a vow renewal or something. Could I come to you and say, hey, this is what I'm envisioning, this is what I will want, and you create something specifically for me? Or is everything like whatever you create, that's the only option?
No, so that's what that we don't do custom yet. It is in the plan for the future. But right now it is ready to wear. So it's
Okay.
basically whatever is online or in the store, if speaking that into existence.
Yes,
So
let's speak it into
or
existence
or
in the
in the
store.
store,
Mm-hmm. In the store.
that is what's available.
Yes, yes, I love that. I love this the simplicity of it, right? Like everything that, like you said, I've seen the pictures, and so like I can see so many different. I was like, oh, that's a bad suit just for
Mhm.
a photo shoot or just for a speaking engagement. It doesn't have to, like you said, like you think wedding and it's like big bridal dress, all these things, but being able to take that and then what happens after you had a dress? I mean,
Right.
I had boys, so it was nothing I could do with mine. So I donated mine. Like I just,
Oh, that's nice.
I couldn't do anything with it. I was just like, so I'll just donate it, right? Like I wasn't going, but something, had I gotten something like that, a nice pantsuit, right? I was like, okay, I can wear this again. Um,
Mhm.
and so in doing this, and even in you talking about like the experiences of growing Fifth and Wilshire and those things, where would you like to, like, what is your hope for Fifth and Wilshire? We know full-time, entrepreneurship, and we know being in the stores, but where do you see Fifth and Wilshire?
I honestly see Fifth and Welshire as like a lifestyle brand. Like I really want to
Yes.
go beyond the special day, and we even put that in our about us pages and on everything that we do is for the day and beyond. And
Mm,
so we do have plans on stepping into like resort wear for technically would be honeymoon. Um, We have plans on maybe like later down the line shoes, but still, ringing true to the brand itself.
Yeah.
But really, like a lifestyle brand is what we're looking for. Like the next thing, one thing that is major, major, major that I definitely want to do, and I just can't figure out how to do it or when to do it, is I want to partner with a nonprofit. I want to be able to
Mm,
do things for women that can't necessarily afford this, because even though it's quote unquote affordable luxury in the fashion landscape, that's where we
yeah.
fall. But in the reality is most people still can't afford a $300 dress. And
Correct.
so I want to be able to give back in that way and partner with a nonprofit.
Well, we put that out there, and all of you listeners who are out here, y'all listen. Her information will be in the show notes. So if
Yes.
you are affiliated with a nonprofit, you are part of it, you own one, whatever it is, and you see the need and you know that there is a need for it, this is your opportunity right here. If you was waiting for it, that's what happens. You speak it into existence, and you just never know, right?
Yeah.
You literally never know what it is that God has in store for you and what it is that you're supposed to at this time on this day in this hour. This is when you were supposed to say that because somebody is listening and being like, "Oh, you know what? I absolutely know how to do that." So, at the beginning of this conversation, you said that you are a full-time mom, full-time
Yeah.
wife, full-time entrepreneur, and a full-time 9 to 5 employee. So, one of the things that we talk about a lot in just in this slaying self-doubt and the transition of wanting to go from 9 to 5 to entrepreneurship or being in full-time entrepreneurship, and like I said, in just sharing everybody's stories, how have you been able to, I hate this word and I really need to figure out a different word, but it's the only word that applies right now. How are you able, no, it is another word. How are you able to prioritize all of those things? I was going to say balance, but because that's not accurate.
Yeah.
um but how are you able, because a lot of people who are, especially in what it is that you're doing, right, like it is literally prior to me, leaving my job, I could do a podcast. I could probably have coached and also worked, right? Because the energy requires is different. But for creating and actually, sewing and drawing and all of those things, like for people who have those type of like that type of skill and those type of things that they need to be doing, how are you able to prioritize all the things that you are the full time of?
Yeah. So two things. One is I tell people I have a 9 to 5 and a 6 to midnight. So like I
Well,
literally
that's facts.
so I have two jobs. It's literally like maybe an hour or two in there to myself to kind of breathe. And I actually schedule it in. Like I'm like, okay, I usually take my nap from like 5 until 6, and then I get up and I hit the ground running with Fifth and Welshire stuff. Because the job that I have is actually not one of those good government jobs where you
Mm-hmm.
don't have to do anything. I'm actually working and I'm in a lead role, so I'm really
Ooh.
busy. Um, but no, I do. I have a 9 to 5 and a 6 to 10. Other than that, I do a lot of scheduling and I know myself well. I know that if I have too much, I'm going to get overwhelmed and nothing's going to get done.
Yeah, yeah.
So I really just pick 3 things that I can get done in a day
Okay.
that like absolutely have to get done. And then I schedule those in. And then I definitely have to shout out my husband because to be honest, like I wouldn't be able to do none of this without him helping. So
Shout
a
out to the
lot of
husbands
times,
who are
yes,
really assistants.
yes, absolutely. Say that, okay? Because he doesn't mind it. Let me say
Yeah,
that he doesn't
yeah.
mind it because he sees the bigger picture. And he's always like, "Well, we trying to build an empire, so
I know
whatever
that's
you
right.
do."
Come on, husband.
Yeah.
Yes.
So he does. We he does drop offs in the morning for school. For my daughter, my son can just walk, but I do pickups. And my job has given me a lot of flexibility now. Only a handful of them know what I actually do on the side,
Mm-hmm.
but like for the most part, I get a lot of flexibility in terms of like, hey, I have to run here or run there, and they're fine with that as so long as I make up my time.
Right. Yeah.
Um, so it really, to answer the question, is like you kind of make it. Nobody ever has time, but they just make it work, right? You
Yeah.
just take the time. If you have to time block it, which is what I do sometimes, it'll be like, okay, from 6 to 8, I have to do this, this, and this. And then I'm going to break for 30 minutes to eat or whatever. I just need to do decompress. And
Mm-hmm.
then I'll pick it back up again and do something else.
Yeah, I love the fact that what you're saying is like prioritizing what's important, right? And
Mhm.
asking for help, right?
Mhm.
Because a lot of times we have a tendency to be like, oh, I got it on my own. I don't, I can do it, this, that, and the third. And again, that is not true. Like we don't have to do it by ourselves. So listen, I understand the shouting out to the husbands who are helpful, your village, your tribe, all of those people who are we like, can somebody pick the kids up? Cause I got X, Y, and Z to do. Like all of those things matter so that so that you're able to fully walk in your purpose and do exactly what it is that you are meant to do. So that is amazing. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Um, so when we were talking about the practical things for your self-doubt and for what it is that you're doing, do you have any advice for anybody who is in just kind of in a space of like really trying to get to that place, who is yeah, any advice for anybody if they're literally haven't gotten to a place where they can actually talk themselves through those moments? If you had to think back to where you were before, what piece of advice would you give somebody who is currently in their self-doubt like bubble?
So the biggest advice I would give is to sit in it, number one,
Mm,
because like
mm,
you have
mm.
to acknowledge it. Like for you can't fix what you don't acknowledge, right?
Yes.
So you have to acknowledge that this is I am having these feelings or these experiences, and then two is figuring out the root cause of it, because the root cause most of the time is judgment
Mm.
and like being afraid that somebody's going to say something, see something, say, whatever.
Yep.
And the reality is they're going to talk regardless, right?
Yes,
And
that's very
so
true.
so so sitting in it, acknowledging what the root cause of it is, maybe it isn't judgment, maybe it's something else. Um, and then understanding that you need to give yourself grace. Like you're not just nobody is even like the people that are the biggest whatever in their field, they still suffer from self-doubt. It's a
Yeah.
natural feeling.
Yeah.
It just comes with it. And those that succeed are those that can acknowledge it, accept it, and then move on.
Yeah.
The key is moving on. You sit in it, but don't sit in it too long. Like my old manager said, go outside, cry it out, and then come back in here and do what you have to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Yeah, the thing about it is that during, in this process, and we're talking about slaying self-doubt being an action, right? Like slaying, because that's a continuous thing. Like you are every day, you're slaying something, some part of that self-doubt that will come back up. And so I think it's important. The first thing you said is that you have to sit in it, right? Like you
Mhm.
really have to admit to yourself that that is something that you're struggling with. And I love that you said it's the judgment, right? Because a lot of times it isn't we know it's not about us, it's about whether or not someone else outside of us is going to accept it, right? It's the
Mhm.
seeking of validation, like, no, you're on the right track, no, you're doing it, doing the right thing. But even if you're seeking that, you're then doing it for the wrong reasons, because if they tell you no, then you're going to alter your plans. And that's not what you got. You have to stay in your own lane, do what it is that you are supposed to do, and mind your business. That's
Mhm.
that's what I tell people, mind your business. Thank you so much, Kai, for sharing your journey with us and being with us today. So, how can people connect with you if they want to reach out to you about if they have a nonprofit, they want to reach out to you and let you know they want to do a partnership, or if they want to purchase something or just get to know a little bit more about you?
Sure. So from a business side, you can, if you are a nonprofit or know a nonprofit, or if you just want to reach out and you just have questions, I'm an open book. I don't mind sharing my experiences and even resources because I feel like in this industry, there's not enough of that happening. But
Yes.
you can email me at hello@fifthandwellshire.com, spelled out. Or you can DM me, message me on Instagram at fifth, and that's 5th and Welshire. That's on the business front. And then on the personal front, if you want to just see what I'm about personally, you can hit me up on Instagram at and it's that Kai on Instagram.
Yay. Thank you so much, Kai. I truly appreciate it. I love being able to talk to different women and just hear their stories, hear their journey. And it is power in, we said it a couple of times on here, but like saying stuff out loud, and it is power in telling your story, because then you're reminded like how far you've actually come, you know what I mean? And
Mhm.
that is something is something to be proud about. It is something that sometimes we need to hear for ourselves, like, dang, I did used to think like that, dang, I
Yep.
used to feel that way, and now I can, use my story to uplift and empower somebody else. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, Felicia. This has been such a pleasure. I'm such a fan.
Oh, thank you. I got a fan, y'all. All right, y'all. That's all for this week. Thanks for listening. And don't forget to share, subscribe, rate, and review. Remember to head over to Facebook and Instagram and follow me at Slaying Self Doubt. Oh, wait, don't forget, go to my YouTube channel and watch this episode. And remember to press the subscribe button. Until next week, see ya.